Net making. Hello everybody, welcome back, and today's little exercise, what I've learned is I've learned how to make a rectangular or square net. And basically what we're going to do in today's little exercise is I will show you how to create a square net, or a rectangular net. Very rarely you'd use a square one, I don't think. But anyway, the whole idea is I will show you how to make a fishing net. And so in this particular case, what I've done is I have made myself, and I've just pull it all together here, I've made myself a nice little fishing net. This is only a small one for this particular exercise, and you wouldn't believe how much trouble I had in trying to film this. It's so fiddly to do, but hopefully it's come across and shows you exactly what you need to do to actually make a net. So please do leave me a comment down below if you make nets, if you like netting, anything you want, to be honest. Just write a comment below and I'll answer it and we'll have a chat online. So once again, let's get knotting. Right, so the main ingredients that we need for our net making is, first of all, the twine. You need to select the twine that you're going to use, and I've selected this particular twine simply for the fact is it's a little bit thicker than normal, and it's also a little bit easier to see on the camera. The next thing that you need is a mesh board, a net board. It comes with different names, a mesh stick or a mesh gauge. And basically what the mesh gauge itself does, it determines the size of the hole that's going to be in your net. So if, say for example, you want a net with smaller holes in, you would then use a smaller board as such. Or if you want, alternatively, if you want larger holes in your net, you would use a larger board. But this is the particular board that I'm going to use for today's little exercise. And then the final thing, there's a couple of other bits, but we'll see those as we go along. We have our netting needles. And as you can see, they come in different sizes, and the whole reason for that is obviously if you're doing a net with very fine mesh, then you would use a smaller needle, and gradually the bigger the net, you increase your needle size up to a point where you don't go massive just because you're doing a shark net or something. But anyway, so that's our netting needles. And so the next bit that we need to do is we need to load our twine cordage onto our netting needle as such. And what I do is I take the end of my cordage, I can take a bit off, let's take a few feet off, that's it, and there's the end of the line. And what I do is, as you can see on my netting needle here, it's a needle in itself, but within it is another needle here, and I'm sure that has got some proper name, but I don't know what it is. But the first thing that we do is we take our cord or our twine and wrap it around like so on our needle. So as you can see, it's going round the back. There's my end, and I'm just going to pull that end up there a bit because we don't want scraggly bits sticking out. And there we go. It's going round that needle. And then the next thing I do is take it underneath the base like so, take it around the other side, keeping my fingers on the back end because I don't want it to slip off just yet, and then put it around that center needle again like so, and then put it down the end there like so, bring it round, and that's all I'm doing is putting it around the needle like so, and then loading up the needle like so. And you basically load up the needle until it is quite full. And for our exercise today, you can see here how many turns that I've done on my netting needle here for the net that we're going to make today. So anyway, I'm now going to clear the table and let's get netting. Right, the first thing that we need to do is we need to get hold of our net gauge like so. And what we do is we're taking the end of our twine around it once and then twice. And then what I'm going to do is, now that I've taken it around twice, I'm going to tie it off. So let me get this the right way up so that I can see it. Tie it off like so. Just put a simple reef knot in. And there we go. I've now tied a loop, but I've gone round twice. That's the important thing. We need to go around twice, and then we pull it off our net gauge like so, and you can see now I've put a loop in the end of my twine here. The next thing we need to do, and this is, I'm not going to show you how to do this, but the next thing that you will need to do is, if you're making this net, is you now need to secure that loop onto something so that you can have tension as you are actually doing your netting. So I'm going to set up a little rig here now, and then I'll show you the next step of making our net. So I've now passed my loop over my carabiner there, which is now nicely secured. You can use a rusty old nail, whatever you want, it doesn't matter. And then the next thing I do is I get hold of my loop at that point there, and what I'm doing is that knot we initially created there, I am bringing it so that it's approximately halfway down the loop itself. Next thing I do is I get hold of my netboard and I pass it, so you can see here now we're working with 1, 2, 3 strands in effect, 2 that make up the loop and 1 on its own, and I pass the cordage over my netboard, and then I take my netting needle, I pass it underneath my netboard like so and up through that loop there, and then just gently pull it through, and then as I pull it through you'll see what's happening. So as you can see, it's going over, under, and then coming up through the loop, and I gently pull it up until all the line, all 3 of those, 1, 2, 3, all 3 of those lines have been tensioned. And then now that it's been tensioned, what I'm going to do is just nip it off at that point there to hold it tight in place. I then take the cord and throw it over my hand like so. So what I've got is, take that little kink out there so you can see what's happening. I have now created a loop over my hand there, which eventually goes to the tail end of my netting needle. And then once I've done that, as you can see there, I've got 1, 2, 3 cords there. I'm going to pass it underneath the right hand 2, which form the loop, and then just pull it through like so, and then just gently pull up there like that. And what's happening is I will now create a knot at that top point there, and we've now created our first loop as such of our mesh. And then I take the netting card out, and then I do exactly the same again. So what I'm going to do now is just move it so there, out of the way, that's it. And now you can see here now, let's just bring that down a little bit, there we go. So here we have it, we have 1 loop here now, and what I do now is exactly the same again, is take the left hand strand that goes to my netting needle, I pass it over my netboard, under my netboard, up through that previous loop, like so, and then pull it up tight. And what we're looking for is we want it butting hard against there, and then just pinch it off at that point there. And let me just move that, adjust that a little bit, there we go. Okay, so we've pinched off at that point there, and we now pass the needle, pass the cordage, do a loop over your hand like so. So just, it doesn't have to be so big, but you can see now here, the cordage is coming out from that loop that we passed it through, round the back of my hand, and then onto my netting needle again. And then I do exactly the same as the previous one. I pass it underneath the right hand 2 and over the very left hand one. Whoop, I've just slipped out then, just let me pull that back. There we go. So going underneath the right hand 2, over the left hand 1, and pull it through. And then just keep your fingers there, and you'll feel the knot then suddenly snag tight and over your fingers. And what you're looking for is, if I take this out now, what you're actually looking for is the knot itself forms above the actual loop. So there's my loop that I formed, and the knot forms just above it. If it forms below it, you'll find that your cordage, you've created a slip knot and it slips. Okay, so that's what you're looking for each time. So once again, let me just show you one more time. Just pull a bit more up. take it so that my loop's there like so, and there's my loop. Take the left hand cord or twine, pass it over my netboard, underneath the netboard, through the loop like so, pull it up so that the loop is nicely butted against my knotting card, throw the cordage over my left hand to form a loop there, go underneath two, over the very left hand one, and pull it all through like so, and then pull it up tight. There we go. And that's all we're going to do. That's all you do for your first rows. So basically, what we're doing now is, hang on, let me pause this and I'll just get you a picture to show you. So we've just created these loops going down here, and basically what I'm doing, if, say for example, let's get that so you can actually see it, if that is my fishing net as such, okay, that's my fishing net. What we're actually doing is doing that piece there. We're doing the depth. So however deep you want your net to be in the water, that is what we're currently doing now. So that's what you need to think about as to how many times you want to repeat that procedure that I just showed you. So what I'm going to do now is I'll show you one more time on that, how to do that. So what I'm going to do is just adjust it slightly so that, there we go. And there's my cordage, and what we want is just don't let it twist over too much. So there's the previous loop that I created. I get my net board or my mesh board and I pass it underneath the left hand strand. I then go up through the loop like so that I've created, and just make sure that it's butted up tight. That loop is butted up tight, and then I just pinch it there like so, and then throw it over the back of my hand to form a loop. Then take my netting needle underneath two, over one, pass it through, and then allow it to lock off above your finger there, and you can see now I've created another loop. And if we take this off now, just to show you, you can see roughly what we're getting here now. You can see here now we're actually getting just one small mesh appearing. Just pull that out like so. Oh, it is tricky, this one, with these fine ropes or cords. Okay, you can see there we've got almost a little mini net having appeared there. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this back on my carabiner like so, and then I'm going to work my way down here and add a few more so that I get the right depth that I want for this particular job. So anyway, when I've done that, I'll come back and show you what to do next into making the length of the net. Okay, so what I've done is I have now carried on and I've done a further loops, and I think I've got 12 in total here. And as you can see here, just by doing that very first bit, we start off with a net. You can see that is a net straight away. Anyway, so if I take that off now, and I've done that 12 times, that knotting process. If I hold this now in front of a ruler, say, and I have done, let's see, that is approximately 28 inches or 72 centimeters. So that has determined the depth of my fishing net. Okay, so obviously you would want to do that process even more if you want it deeper, but for my particular case, I'm happy with this size just as a demo. And then the next thing we're going to do is set it up so that we then start doing the actual length of the net itself. Right, so we've done that piece of our net now. That is the depth. That's the depth of our net. The next thing we want to do is determine how long we're going to make it. And to set that up, I'll show you that next. What I've done now is I've laid my first part of the mesh out on the table, just opened it out a bit, and that was my starting point there. There's my little scraggly end for my starting point, and I promise you, on the right hand side there it does terminate onto my netting needle. Now the next thing that we want to do is, it's simple, but it's just a little bit tricky to do. What you do, once you get used to it, you can just grab the loops themselves. But as you can see here, we've basically got a top loop, top, bottom. And what we're doing is we're going to collect up all the top loops onto our pencil here. So I'm just going to go here, pass it over, and just feed it through so that my pencil takes up all of the top loops. Now it's crucial you get all of the top loops. So when you get to there, take the top loop, and there we have it. Now we have all our top loops on our pencil here. And the next thing that we're going to do is, this is fairly straightforward and easy, is just make sure when you do this, when you're doing this, you've got a series of knots at the same point. And also the other thing you'll notice is that at the bottom here, we've also got a series of loops. And what we're trying to do, the main aim of this is to keep all these loops here, just get them here so that they're all at the same length. Now, the thing is, if we didn't tie this, it can actually shorten or lengthen. So what we want to do is just bunch them all up together so that they're the same length. Just stroke them out so they're all the same length at the bottom there. So all our loops at the bottom there, we've got a fairly straight line. And you can see there as I pull up on that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just put a constrictor knot around the top there to tie that all off in place so it doesn't slip. So I'll just do that and then I'll come back to you. Right, so as you can see now, just at that point there, I've tied it all off, and if I spread this out at the bottom, you can see here that my end loops are pretty much equidistant. Oh, you can't see them. Pretty much equally at the same distance at the bottom. Okay, so now that I've done that, I can take my pencil out. So I've removed my pencil, and then that loop there, the next thing I'm going to do is just put it over my carabiner. So bring my carabiner into view, there it is, and then just take all of those loops and pass them onto the carabiner. Make sure you get them all on, and there we go. And then that's it. We've now secured that. Now, the thing is, at the moment, because I'm right-handed, when I'm netting, I work from left to right. And so at the moment, the lead, this lead here, is going onto my netting needle, is on the right-hand side. And all I want to do now is just turn the whole work over, and then we're starting from the left-hand side and going across to the right-hand side. And that's what I'm doing there. And then just spread it out a bit so that it's all fairly, so you can see it, and it's all fairly even. And now what we do is this. I need to once again put tension on my net. So I'm going to apply the tension on my net, starting to move out of the way. So bring it, just put the tension on and get it so that I can see it, you can see it, just makes it all a little bit easier. And then we do the following. So we're now doing the length of our net. We've got the depth, we now want the length of it, and all I do is just make sure that the first cord that's attached to my netting needle passes over the card, and then what I do is I go underneath the card, pick up the first loop. So if we just pull that to one side, you can see the first loop that we come to is that one there. And all I do is go up through that first loop, and exactly the same as we did in the beginning, we bring it so that the loop butts up hard against my my net gauge. I then pinch it, throw a loop over my hand like so, go underneath, pick up the first two that form the loop, go over the left hand one of that, and then pull it through, and then pull the knot down tight and locks it into place. Now this is where it differs now from the other one. The other way we did it, we don't take the loops off the card. What we do now is we find the next loop along, which is that one there, and what we're going to do now is go underneath the card, pick up, so let me just bring that into, just so you can see that a bit better. So there we go. So my twine is going to go underneath the card, pick up the next loop, just make sure it's not twisted, pick up the next loop like so, and then go through and make sure it butts up against my neck gauge again here, pinch it off, throw a loop around my hand like so, and then what I want to do is I just want to go underneath 2 and then over the rest. So underneath 2, bring it through that loop and then pull up tight, and there we go, we have our next one done. And then I do exactly the same again. I look for the next loop to the right hand side of that and just put your fingers in there to make sure you've got the loops. If you cross over, you've got a bit of a problem, but what you're looking for is the next one along. So we're going underneath the card, pick up the next loop like so, bring it over, pull it tight so that we end up tight at that point there. The loop is actually butting against the card. Throw a loop over my hand, go underneath 2, up over the rest, through the loop over my hand. Oh, it even confuses me sometimes, and then pull it up tight. You won't believe how much problems I've had filming this. Okay, and so once again, we go underneath the board, up through the next loop, bring it so that it comes up tight against the card, like so, nip it off, form a loop over my hand, underneath the 2 that form that loop, bring it through, and then pull the knot down. And that's all we do. We keep doing that all the way along until we get to the very end. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll carry on with that. When I get to the end, I'll show you what to do next. So I've come to my final loop that I can see here. So all I'm going to do now is go around the back of the card, pick that loop up, pull it over like so, make sure that loop butts up against the card itself like so, and then when it's butted up, pinch it over, and then go underneath those 2, over all the rest, and bring it up so that it's nice and tight. And now we've done another row. So if I undo this now, and I'm going to turn it over as well, because we're going to go from left to right again, because I'm right-handed. And you can see here now that we have now completed another row on our mesh here. And all I'm going to do now is, now that I'm on the other side, just go and pass the card underneath there, pick up the first loop. Hang on, let's put a bit of tension on this again. Okay, so pass the card over like so, take the needle underneath, take the first loop, bring it over, pull it down so it's nice and snug against my card, pinch it off, loop around the hand, underneath the 2, over the rest, and form a knot. And that's all I'm going to do, is I'm going to go along and pick up these. And the more we do this, then turn it over, do it again, the longer our net's going to get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit more, and then you can see what I finished up with. Right, so I've done a couple more rows since I saw you last, and there is my net spread out. And as I pull it together, you'll be able to see that I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a half. 6 and a half, there's my half. Couldn't show you on camera. So anyway, so I've done 6 and a half here. And if I actually take it off my, forgot the name of it now, carabiner, and then just undo that knot there. And then I'll be able to spread it out. And then you can see then what we've done is we have created a nice rectangular net. So undo that, pull that out like so, and then just gently spread it out, and you can now see what we've done here is we have created a nice, and it is nice, I like it. To be honest, I like netting. It's a very, very nice thing to do. And you can see here now we have created a net. At the moment, this net is not very big at all, but it's big enough to fill the screen, and I think that's all we want. But that's all you do. You just keep going until you get the length you want. So the first bit is the depth of your net. You could do it the other way around, I suppose, but I think of the first bit as doing how deep I want the net, and then the next bit is how long I want that net to stretch across a river, a bay, whatever. Okay? And so that's it. That is basically how to make a rectangular net. So once again, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, if you hated it, but please do leave me a comment down below and tell me your experiences on netting. Okay? Thanks very much then. Bye-bye.